I'll give you this though. I don't think Houston's getting in.
I know
They've absolutely. They really, what's funny about them is they bought at the trade deadline and got worse.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias. I'm back off the IL. He's Brian McKeon. We've been hosting the show together for nearly a year and a half. And Brian, heading into this week, we have some interesting things to look out for.
Oh, yeah. The baseball slate of teams in competition for the wild card divisional races, it's a beautiful, beautiful mess.
It really is. And it's amazing how the schedule worked out where some of these teams are actually facing each other and they have a chance to knock each other out of the playoffs almost completely.
It's about time baseball figured that out, by the way. It's about time baseball figured it out.
Although I think they kind of lucked into it this season, but we'll see what happens in 2026. Yeah. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. On today's show, we'll preview the series with the White Sox, and we'll take a look at the American League playoff chances for all different teams and scenarios and all that stuff. We'll also take our Tuesday trek through the minors. It's a little shorter now that there's only one team left playing, but we have some news for you. But first, who do the Yankees match up best against in round one? I know I discussed this last week. I know you discussed it briefly on Monday's show. Do you know who I picked? I can't remember if we spoke about it.
No, I think this was two shows that we were two different shows that we were both not working together on, so we don't have we never discussed it together.
Yeah.
Which is very rare because there's not really a topic on the Yankees that we haven't discussed together. It's interesting though, because you did this show, I believe, last Tuesday or last Wednesday's show, and the playoff race has changed. The possibilities of teams that could play at this point, I believe the Tigers' lead at that point was still 7.5 games. And now it's down to 1 game. So it's a myriad of different teams the Yankees want to playing at this point. Not to mention, the Yankees could easily wind up winning the division at this point. Like, it's so crazy, Stacey.
Yeah, because the question that was posed to me when I did the live stream last Wednesday was, between two teams, Houston and Boston, who would you rather face in the first round if you were the Yankees? And I said Houston right now.
I'd agree with
because I feel like they're the weaker team out of the two. And some people thought I was crazy and others agreed with me. I also said that I'd rather them face Houston because I feel like they're finally slaying the giant, so to speak, if they finally knock Houston out and get rid of that narrative that they can never beat Houston. And yes, I know Houston is a weakened team, but there were instances where the Yankees could have and should have beaten them in the playoffs and just didn't.
I'll give you this though. I don't think Houston's getting in.
I know
they've absolutely. They really, what's funny about them is they bought at the trade deadline and got worse. Honestly, like their play got worse, and they have not been a dominant team since. The Alvarez injury too came at the absolute worst time for them, where it stings their offense too much. What's crazy too is going into the weekend they were tied with the Mariners, and they were playing a 3-game series in Houston, and they lost and they got swept. They got swept in their home ballpark with a chance to seal the division. So the Mariners have a 3-game lead in that division with 6 to go. That would be a pretty, I don't know, I want to say it would be a monumental blown lead at this point, but that's not, because the amount of blown leads that have been blown this year is not, it's crazy. So you have the Detroit Tigers that have blown a 15.5 game lead. The Mets had a 12-game lead when you count what they were with the Phillies compared to the wild card. The Mets have blown that lead. It's wild what's going on. So right now, the way let's go over what the playoff picture looks like.
The Yankees blew a 7.5 game lead.
That's true. And that was so long ago that you kind of like forget at this point.
Yeah.
So what's crazy is the Yankees at this point are 2 games behind Toronto for the AL East title. What's even crazier when you look at it this way, though, the Yankees have the second best record in the American League. Toronto's got the best record in the American League. So the Yankees catch them. They all of a sudden go from the top wild card team to the American League season winner.
Right.
Which is crazy to think about. So Their record is they're a game ahead of Seattle. They're 2 ahead of Detroit. They're 2 ahead of Boston. 3 ahead of Boston. And 4 ahead of Cleveland and Houston. Those are the only teams that I think at this point have a chance of getting in. Again, we've talked about. I was always scared of Texas all year. I didn't want to play them. There's no chance Texas has to get into the postseason, and Kansas City is 6 out of a wild card spot with 6 to play.
Yeah,
so Kansas City's not getting either.
Yeah.
The Yankees' legitimate chances of who they have to play, Stacey, it really has to do with what they wind up doing in the division first. So let's discuss that first. The Yankees have 3 against Chicago, the White Sox, and then 3 against Baltimore at home in the Bronx. To your best estimation, the Blue Jays have 3 against the Red Sox in Toronto, which is a massive series starting on Tuesday, and then 3 in Toronto against Tampa over the weekend. To your best estimation, the Yankees have a chance of getting this division or no?
Well, there's always a chance.
Well, okay. Are they going to do it or not?
No, because I think Toronto is going to come out. I think they have the edge because they're at home. And I know Boston and the Rays are not exactly pushovers, but I think what might happen is the Yankees and Toronto might both go like 4-2 in these 6 games, and that won't help the Yankees at all.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. So if we take that premise, right, that Toronto's going to win the American League East, which means that Toronto is going to have the best record in the American League, probably with around 94, 95 wins. If we take that premise alone, they're the best team in the American League. Who scares you? Like, give me the reason at that point of why the Yankees shouldn't win the American League. Because who really scares you at that point? And kick aside the bad stretch of play in the middle of the summer and everything. Focus on what they're doing right now.
Right, because in the latest series,
they can't beat?
Right, because in the latest series that they played against most of these teams, except for Detroit, but that was just a weird aberration and outlier because the bullpen just completely fell apart. They did well against Houston. They did well against the Red Sox. They did well against the Blue Jays, and they seem to be on a roll. They have one of the better records since August 1st at this point, and they've been looking a lot better. And I know that there were a lot of bad teams thrown in there, but again, during that gauntlet that they needed to do well in 12 games, they finished 7-5, and only because the bullpen was absolutely atrocious in those 2 games against Detroit. Otherwise, they could have easily swept Detroit in that stretch that they played.
And it's funny you mentioned that too, because the Yankees' bugaboo at that period was their bullpen. And that is the bugaboo of every single team in the American League. Toronto made that big signing of getting Hoffman in the offseason. He's been terrible. He's like a 7 ERA for them. So he's been awful. They have no one in their bullpen. Seattle doesn't really have a good bullpen. Their starting pitching is pretty solid, and their offense has kicked it up. But their big acquisition at the trade deadline, Eugenio Suarez, has been terrible for them. Remember, they got him with like 34 home runs. He's got like 40. So he hasn't been good for them at all since the deadline. Boston's bullpen has one guy that's been great all year in Chapman. That's it. You have to get to the closer, though. Detroit has one starting pitcher. I'm sorry, I'm not putting Casey Mize in that conversation. He's had his opportunity all year and hasn't been able to do it. Houston doesn't have that. Cleveland had the bullpen, and Clase is out because of the gambling problem. So find me the team that the Yankees can't legitimately beat, and quite frankly, shouldn't beat. I think there's one team, if the Yankees matched up against them in a playoff series, which right now would be in the American League Championship Series if it happens, that the Yankees would not be favored from a gambling standpoint in the series. And I think it would be Toronto. Right. And I think Toronto would be favored maybe slightly over the Yankees, not even a big favorite. Other than that, who's the team the Yankees wouldn't be favored over? So I want to sit here and say, like, they should win the American League. With the stacked roster they have, with the talent they have on this team, and with the inexperience Toronto has, I think the Yankees should win the American League. And I brought up that American League championship point to you, and I want to close it off with this before I get your opinion on all this. The Yankees, if there's a team out there that lost in the first round that you wouldn't be remotely surprised that choked it away and let a wild card team beat them, would Toronto not be the team to surprise you at all?
Right.
Like, they'd be the team that loses in the wild card series to Cleveland. So right now, the current odds, the Mariners are favored actually at plus 200. The Blue Jays are plus 300. The Yankees are plus 350. And with the casinos are telling you, Stacey, right after that is Detroit at number 4 at plus 625. So they're basically telling you it's a 3-horse race in the American League. what is the good reason that the Yankees can't do it or shouldn't do it?
Right. One correction. Suarez has 47 home runs because him and Judge are like almost at 50. So
Okay, yeah. He has heated up. You're right.
Yeah, so if they hit 50, it'll be like the first time that there's been this many guys hitting 50 home runs and whatever the heck the stat is. So I just wanted to correct that. Just
no,
I didn't want people to come into the comments and say he hits 47.
Yeah, no, I don't think that he hasn't been great since getting over there. Regardless,
I'm a little more worried about JP Crawford hitting the ball.
He's been great lately.
Yeah.
I don't think Raleigh would kill them as much as people seem to think.
Just don't throw him meatballs. Don't throw him meatballs because he's not hitting. It's not like he's hitting 330. He's hitting what, 250? Don't throw him anything over the plate because I want to discuss this just briefly. It is amazing to me that people are pitching to Cal Raleigh because you remember how people were not pitching to Aaron Judge and they were trying to work around him as much as possible because he's a more feared hitter than Cal Raleigh. That's why Raleigh's hitting all these home runs because they're not pitching around him. He doesn't have a good average. If he doesn't hit a home run, he's striking out. He's not like Judge. So I don't understand why.
Here's why. No, I'll tell you why. Because the Mariners have built their lineup really well, something the Yankees have failed to do over the years. The Mariners have put a lot of protection around him in that lineup. So you don't have the option of walking him because then you get Suarez next to you, get Crawford before him. Like there's a lot of protection in that lineup where you can't afford. They got Naylor at the deadline. Like there's a lot of guys that are there that you can't afford to just walk Cal Raleigh because there's guys because that lineup is so deep.
Well, who's behind Judge now?
Cody Bellinger, or Stanton, which again is good, but it's not what they've done in years past. And in years past, when they were pretty much intentionally walking Judge every single time he came up, it was because the Yankees were backing that up with name insert player that we don't even talk about anymore.
But even when you watch Judge at bats, like even when they're not intentionally walking him, they're intentionally walking him by giving him nothing to hit. Where every other team is just offering up meatballs to Cal Raleigh. It's unbelievable.
Judge doesn't strike out as much, so you have to try and entice Raleigh by putting a ball in the zone so he swings at it. Because you want him to try and swing and miss it at balls. Judge will take balls out of the zone. That's the problem too. So you kind of have to play that little cat and mouse game with Cal Raleigh too. Regardless,
Judge is the MVP. I don't care what anyone says.
Oh, I completely agree with you. And we could do a whole episode on that. Check out our TikTok post from about a week ago because there's a lot of people in the comment section that are still fighting to this day on who the MVP should be, which is they've done great for us.
All right, don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notifications so you know when our videos go up. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You get texts from us. You can text us questions, comments, reactions to trades and signings. We also let you have top priority on Fan Mail Friday when you're an insider. We send out lineups during the season, any roster moves and breaking news so you don't have to check social media. We also have an added perk. There is a private Discord where you can commiserate during games. There's a 14-day free trial for our Insiders Club, so join it, especially now that the playoffs are starting. Coming up, we're going to take our Tuesday trek through the minors next.
You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that actually works. There are so many products out there, it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. And that's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just the hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. The best part, it's easy. You take 4 pills with the meal and there's no prescription required. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com. And enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB.
Welcome back. If you are new to the show, we do Fan Mail Friday every Friday. We answer your questions. You submit it to us. We answer them about Yankees, about baseball, about life. And if you are a YouTube viewer, this is how you leave your questions. You go to our channel's page on YouTube, you click on the post tab, and you will see the latest posts where I tell you, leave your Fan Mail Friday questions here. Remember, it's only for Fan Mail Friday questions, and the deadline is Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
So everybody, it's time for your second favorite segment of the week besides Fan Mail Friday, and that is Stacy's Tuesday Trek Through the Minors.
Yes, we're winding down because there's only one more team to worry about for the minors. Somerset got swept by Binghamton. It was only a 3-game series. They got swept in 2 games. Let's start with them first. I have it out of order, but let's talk about Somerset first. So they lost to the Binghamton Mets team, and they lost the first game 3-1, second game 5-4. So they weren't blowouts in any way. They were close games, but that's a bit of a bummer for Somerset. So their season is over. But some good news for Somerset, or at least for someone who played for Somerset. Baseball America has named right-handed Elmer Rodriguez Cruz as their New York Yankees minor league player of the year, not just pitcher of the year, but player of the year, which is pretty exciting. He's actually up with Scranton, and there's a possibility that he could play with Scranton in their division series. They're just not sure if they're going to do that yet, or if they're just going to have him end his season. So there is a chance he could continue pitching this week, but we'll talk about Scranton in a second. So here are some numbers from Rodriguez Cruz. He's the number 5 prospect, the Yankees, according to MLB Pipeline and Baseball America. He's 11-8 with a 2.58 ERA. He has 176 strikeouts in just over 150 innings pitched in 27 games. That equals 26 starts in 2025. He's the active minor league baseball leader in strikeouts with 176, trailing only Jonah Tong on the season because Jonah Tong is now with the Mets and pitching in the majors. So that is not bad company at all.
Not at all. No, he's striking guys out in the major leagues, so that's a really good sign.
Yeah. So for Somerset, Rodriguez Cruz was 5-3 with a 2.64 ERA. He had 74 strikeouts in 61 1/3 innings in 11 starts. And since he debuted on July 12th in Double-A, he led all Eastern League pitchers in strikeouts with those 74 innings pitched. Again, 61 1/3. Game started at 11. He was tied for second in wins with 5, third in WHIP, 5th in ERA, and 7th in batting average against with a 1.98.
And you know what's crazy too is these guys now are training as kids, as 14-year-olds, when they're devoting their craft to pitching, to become strikeout specialists. This was not a thing back in the day. Back in the day, it was perfecting your breaking ball and learning how to throw and locate and stuff. These guys are literally training to become strikeout specialists because this is what teams are looking for. So it's worked with this kid for sure. I want you to read the next bullet, though, because this one's actually huge.
He was originally drafted by the Red Sox in the 4th round of the 2021 draft, and the Yankees acquired him and future considerations in a trade with Boston for catcher Carlos Narvaez.
So whenever we sit there and talk about these trades the Yankees and Red Sox made, I don't want to hear anyone give the point that, oh, well, they traded Narvaez for nothing. They traded him for the Major League Baseball Player of the Year.
Well,
so,
the Yankees.
Well, no, but that's the Red Sox could sit there and bite their words if Narvaez is out of baseball in 2 years.
Yeah,
I mean, he had a great year this year, but this happens all the time with catchers where they have great years and then fall apart. So we tend to do that a lot, where we forget we don't realize the prospect that was moved in these deals. And this could be a really positive sign for the Yankees.
Yep. So in his minor league career, he's 22-19. His ERA is 2.59. That's 371 strikeouts in just over 333 innings pitched, and that's 75 games, 70 starts. So those are pretty good numbers.
Chance we see him next year?
It's possible, actually. Maybe not to start, but you might see him at some point.
I think they'd have to get desperate out of their rotation, but there's a chance.
Yeah. Like we said in segment 1, it's always a chance. It might not be a big chance, but there's a chance. So let's talk about Scranton. They are in the playoffs for the first time since 2019. They haven't won an International League championship since 2016. They also won the overall AAA championship that season. So they will play Jacksonville in a 3-game series starting tonight. But because they need to complete the series as quickly as possible, either one of the teams, in case they have to play the AAA championship game, they're going to play on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday with all the games in Jacksonville. And the Pacific Coast League Championship Series will be between Tacoma and Las Vegas. And whoever wins that series, they will play in the championship game against whoever wins Jacksonville Scranton. So it's very quick. Like it's like, here you go. It's going to be championship time.
Turnaround's real quick.
Yeah.
It's much more dragged out at the major league level.
Yes.
Much more dragged out. Look at the playoff schedule. These teams are getting 2-3 days off between games. It's insane.
Yes. Some other news from Scranton. Spencer Jones just missed 30-30. Just missed it. He finished with 35 home runs, and he had 29 stolen bases. Just missed it. And per Tom Kaczynski, again, I use his numbers a lot, so go to his website. Just Google his name, Tom. That's easy enough for you to spell. And his last name is Kosen Sky Kaczynski. He has this about Jake Bird. Remember Jake Bird when the Yankees traded for Jake Bird? Yeah, he pitched on Sunday, 1 inning, no hits, no runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts. And in his final 4 games, he struck out 10 batters in 4 1/3 innings. And per Kaczynski, the Yankees are just looking for signs that he could be viable in 2026.
They're going to keep him on the roster only because they believe in his stuff a lot. That's why they traded for him. And they think that Matt Blake, this could be a project for Matt Blake in the offseason.
Yeah.
They love his spin rate and everything like that. So they're going to, I guarantee he'll be on the opening day roster.
Right. So let's go Scranton. Let's have something good to talk about next week. It won't be a full Tuesday trek through the minors, obviously, because other than if they lose that series, obviously I'll recap that, but that won't be long enough for a full segment. So we'll have other things to talk about. But if they make it to the championship, maybe I can spread it out to a full segment. So let's go Scranton, beat up on Jacksonville if you can, away from home for 3 games, which seems kind of unfair to me.
Pick it up. Let's go.
Yeah. All right, coming up, we'll preview the series with the White Sox, and we'll tell you about some news from the American League and how teams are setting up for the playoffs or setting up for vacation if they don't make the playoffs. So we'll talk about all of that next.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, I'm on FanDuel, surfing back and forth all day on Sundays. Every Sunday is a holiday for me during this time of year, so I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. If you're into player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live once the action unfolds, it makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on the fantasy lineups of that day. And plus, it's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way that you can add a little more energy to your Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And not only do we cover your team every day, but now we're giving you instant episodes after every single game. You can check out the Locked On Yankees postcast. It's hosted by Jay Berman, and it appears right here on the Locked On Yankees podcast feed. It also streams on our YouTube channel. Get rapid reaction to all the biggest moments with the Locked On Yankees postcast. So, Stacey, the Yankees will start their 3-game series against the Chicago White Sox on Tuesday. The magic number sits at 3. So, any combination of losses between the teams that are behind them and the Yankees themselves winning games, equaling 3, will clinch them a playoff spot. It would be pretty impossible to miss the postseason at this point if you're the New York Yankees. We'll see what they can do to try and prove us wrong. I'm sure they will do their best. Game 1.
No, I don't think so. I will say this. I was watching the replay of the game from Sunday on Monday, and Ben Rice, they interviewed him, obviously, because they had such a big game on Sunday. He said, we just have to keep our foot on the gas. We're going to keep our foot on the gas. Like Meredith
Love
is
that
like,
mindset.
Right? And I know he's not the only one
postseason.
thinking that way. Yeah, no, I think that they're realizing that, look, we screwed this up for 2 months. We have to go in and go strong because there is a chance it's only going to be the wild card. We have to play right away, and we have to take care of business. So.
And the talent level's there. Like, there's no excuse. The talent level is there.
Yep.
So game 1 of the series against Chicago will be all these games are on Yes, by the way. No Amazon Prime game. Game 1 is on Yes. Game 2 and Game 3 are all on Yes. They're all 7:05 starts also. No 7:09, 7:06. Interesting.
Oh, yeah. The Yankees don't do that to us.
Yeah. So game 1's going to be Shane Smith, 6-8 with a 4.06 ERA up against Luis Heel, who's 4-1 with a 3.33. Game 2 will be undecided for the White Sox as of now. Max Fried will pitch for the Yankees, 18-5 with a 2.92. Now, I'm a baseball nerd, so I want to see Max Fried finish the year with an ERA under 3. So I'm hoping for a performance that, anything under 3 runs, because this is definitely his last start of the year. So under 3 runs, I want the ERA under 3. That just gives me my baseball nerd kind of juices flowing. And then game 3 of the series will be Davis Martin for the White Sox, 7-10 with a 4.03 versus Will Warren, who's 8-8 with a 4.35. It's interesting. A lot of these bad teams that come into series like this have a lot of extra motivation because they want to spoil the party for the team that they're playing. The Yankees aren't in a position to kind of miss the postseason, to fall in the standings, to really screw themselves over. So I don't know exactly what the motivation is for Chicago coming into this series, other than getting out of the Bronx as quick as possible, because the quicker they're out of the Bronx is the quicker they're into the next series and the quicker they're in Jamaica or the Bahamas or wherever they choose to vacation. So I don't think there's that extra motive. Like they've talked about the New York Mets who are playing the Cubs and then are going to go to Miami. And that's a big, interesting thing because Miami's got nothing to play for except for kicking the Mets out of the postseason.
Which they've done in the past a few times.
Exactly. And I think there is that motivation for teams that it gives them something to play for late in the year. The Yankees aren't going to have that with Chicago or Baltimore, so I don't know if there's that little extra kind of motivation built in. I think it's just one of those, take care of your business, get out of here. And I do think teams like Chicago, when you get this close to the end, you just want to get the heck out of town and just get on vacation.
I just don't want them to, because Jazz even mentioned it one time. He's like, we have to stop playing down to certain teams. Don't play down to the White Sox. Beat them up. You have to, step on their necks, so to speak, sweep them out of town. You have to show everyone, we're for real. And you should be a little scared. Like the way people are talking about Cleveland, they should be talking about the Yankees, because the Yankees have been doing well for most of September. They've been doing well. They may not have gone on as long.
The last 2 months. The last 2 months, really. August and September, they've been one of the best teams in baseball.
Right. Like they may not have gone on a very long winning streak like Cleveland did, because most people are saying, oh man, if Cleveland gets in, they're the ones that are scary because they're hot right now. But I don't know why people aren't thinking the same way about the Yankees. Maybe because
and you know what the thing is too? Well, because it's the Yankees. The Yankees never get to be an underdog.
Right.
And I'll say this too, Stacey, what's interesting about that? We said the same thing last year about the Royals. They were hot coming in. They were playing really good baseball. They were young, spunky, didn't know any better, and the Yankees took care of business really quickly against them.
Right.
So there is that thing too where Cleveland could get taken care of really quickly. They might be hot right now, but the talent level hasn't been there all year, except for Steven Kwan, who just is unstoppable.
Yeah, he's really amazing. Yeah.
Just an update of what's going on to keep you guys all focused in on what's going on in the baseball playoff picture, and we're going to just focus on the American League here. So the Yankees' only team to catch is Toronto. They're 2 games back with 6 to play. The Red Sox are 5 games back. So the Red Sox have no chance of catching Toronto for the division. Basically, for the Red Sox to win the division, they would have to sweep Toronto and then sweep their last series. Toronto would have to lose all their games, and the Yankees would have to lose all their games. So the Red Sox have no chance to get in the division at this point. And the AL Central is the interesting one. The Tigers hold a 1-game lead over the Guardians. At one point, that lead was 15.5 games. Now, the interesting part, Stacey, the Guardians and the Tigers will play each other in a 3-game series in Cleveland starting on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So that series, if you're a baseball fan, keep your eye peeled on that series. That is an unbelievable series that is going forward. So we'll see what goes on there, because this is the problem that I told you a couple weeks ago. The Tigers have been playing with their food since May, when they had this giant lead in the division, and they haven't taken anything seriously, and they've kind of just been coasting since then. It came back to bite them. It did. They haven't taken things seriously, and you get a team like Cleveland that just gets absurdly hot, and look what happens.
Then the 1998 Yankees did the same thing, where they were coasting for so long, and then they were awful in September, and Torrey was like, what are you guys doing? I mean, they had the division locked up, and they were up by 20 games, so it wasn't that big a deal. But when your division lead is only 8, you can't do that. Like the Yankees had a big cushion, so they could do that, and it didn't hurt them in the end, because they still finished with 114 wins. Yeah. But that September was it got a little weird, where you're like, okay, where was the team from the previous 5 months? Like, what happened to you guys? So
this would be the biggest divisional blown lead of all time if it gets blown. So it's crazy.
Bigger than the Yankees catching up after being down 14.
Yep. Because it was 15.5. The Mariners had a 3-game lead have a 3-game lead on the Astros for the division. That's probably going to be over at this point in the AL West. The Mariners need 3 more wins, and three Astros losses, whatever combination will get them to clinch the division. And then the AL wild card. So Cleveland holds the tiebreaker over Houston for that last spot currently. So that third wild card spot is technically Cleveland's. They also have the season series over Houston. So if they finish with the same record, Cleveland's going to get that wild card spot. Now, Houston has the tiebreaker over Detroit. So if Detroit finishes with that final wild card spot and their record is the same record as Houston leapfrogs Detroit. So that is very interesting there too. Those are the only 3 teams that are kind of fighting for that final wild card spot, but it's really 2 teams because one of them is going to win the American League Central. So we'll see which happens there. Again, Texas, I said earlier, is 5 games out with 6 to play, so they got no chance there. Houston has 3 in Sacramento and 3 in LA. That's why it's fascinating, because the competition is not exactly crazy.
Right.
So we'll see if now I'll give him this though. Sacramento and LA are 2 teams that are playing to keep Houston out of the postseason.
Right.
So that there is that little extra motivation there. Cleveland's going to play 3 against Detroit and then 3 versus Texas. So we'll see. It is going to be a crazy thing. Right now, your prediction: who are the 2 that get in? Who's the one out?
Oof. Oh, I don't know. I think Cleveland gets in.
I'm going to say Cleveland gets in, but gets the wild card.
Yes.
Houston misses. Detroit wins the division.
I think that's what's going to happen. I really feel like Sacramento and the Angels can really spoil things for Houston.
Which would mean that the next top division winner would be Seattle, and they would play Cleveland in the first round, which would be a very interesting playoff series.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Very.
You have the team that's been, on a bit of a hot streak against another team that's been on a bit of a hot streak, but one has Etsy, which is helping them, and the other one doesn't. So who knows?
Yeah, very interesting stuff.
All right, so a quick programming note. I recorded a podcast over the weekend with Crystal O'Keefe of Southside Sox, and it's called Visiting Dugout. It's their 108th episode, and I will put a link in the description if you'd like to listen or watch us talk about the Yankees, the White Sox, and baseball overall. So, tune in for that. Shot it over the weekend, so we didn't know who the matchups were for the series. So we kind of previewed the series, but kind of didn't. Also, we just talked about our teams in general, but it was a good conversation, and I had a lot of fun.
Cool stuff.
Yeah. So thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, every night, until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll catch you guys tomorrow.